I trusted Amanda with my apartment keys, while I left for a 2-week business trip to Seattle. After 2 years together, I thought nothing could go wrong. My 32-year-old software engineer self was excited about this career opportunity, and Amanda seemed genuinely supportive. We had built what I thought was a relationship based on trust and respect. But when her text replies became suspiciously delayed after day 9, something felt off. Before I get into this nightmare, let me know where you are watching from, and drop a like if you have ever had your trust betrayed by someone you loved. I wish I had seen the red flags sooner. I met Amanda at a tech expo in downtown Chicago. I was showcasing a software project my company had developed, and she approached my booth with genuine curiosity about the application. Her intelligent questions impressed me immediately. Amanda was 28, an elementary school teacher with a warm smile and a passion for incorporating technology in her classroom. We exchanged numbers, and within a week, we had our first date at a small Italian restaurant overlooking Lake Michigan. Over the next 2 years, our relationship blossomed beautifully. Amanda was thoughtful, caring, and we complemented each other perfectly. I appreciated her patience when I worked late, and she valued how I supported her teaching career. We spent weekends exploring the city, taking cooking classes together and planning for a shared future. We had even started discussing marriage and looking at houses in the suburbs. I truly believed I had found my person. Our relationship had always been built on mutual respect. We maintained our independence while growing together. Amanda had her own apartment across town, but she spent 3 or 4 nights a week at my place. We respected each other's space and privacy, which I considered essential in any healthy relationship. I never went through her phone, and she never questioned my friendships. This trust made what eventually happened all the more devastating. The business trip to Seattle came up suddenly when our company landed a contract with a major tech firm. As the lead developer, I needed to be on site for 2 weeks to implement the system and train their staff. This project represented a huge opportunity for my career advancement. My boss had hinted that a promotion to development director might be in the cards if everything went smoothly. The pressure was immense. We had a tight deadline, and the client was known for their exacting standards. I spent weeks preparing, often working late into the night. Amanda was supportive throughout, bringing me dinner at the office and listening patiently as I talked through technical challenges. Her encouragement meant everything during this stressful time. My apartment was on the 12th floor of a luxury high-rise, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. I had invested considerably in the space with custom furniture, a state-of-the-art entertainment system, and a home office equipped with the latest technology. My most prized possession was my collection of vintage watches, something I had been building since college. Some pieces were worth thousands of dollars, both in monetary and sentimental value. The day before my departure, I gave Amanda a spare set of keys. I showed her how to care for my rare houseplants, explained the security system, and made a list of maintenance contacts in case anything went wrong. I specifically mentioned that my home office was off-limits due to sensitive work information on my computer. Amanda nodded seriously, promising to take excellent care of everything. The first week of my trip went smoothly. Amanda sent daily updates with photos of my thriving plants and cute messages about how she missed me. We video called every night, and everything seemed normal. The project was progressing well, and I was fully focused on the work. Around day 9, I noticed a change. Amanda started taking hours to respond to my texts. Our nightly calls became shorter, and she seemed distracted. During one call, I heard voices and laughter in the background. When I asked about it, she quickly said it was just the television. Another time, I noticed what looked like someone walking behind her, but when I questioned it, she repositioned her phone and changed the subject. During our video call on day 11, I spotted a glass that was not mine on my kitchen counter. When I pointed it out, Amanda looked flustered and said she had brought over a new set of glasses as a surprise for when I returned. Something about her explanation did not feel right, but I pushed the thought aside, attributing my suspicions to stress and exhaustion. Fortunately, our team completed the implementation ahead of schedule. The client was impressed with our work, and my boss gave us the green light to return home 3 days early. I decided not to tell Amanda, thinking I could surprise her, and perhaps take her out for a nice dinner to thank her for handling things in my absence. The moment I stepped off the elevator on my floor, I knew something was wrong. I could hear loud music coming from the direction of my apartment. As I approached my door, I detected multiple voices, laughter, and the unmistakable smell of cigarette smoke despite my building's strict no-smoking policy. I unlocked the door with a growing sense of dread. Nothing could have prepared me for the scene that greeted me. My immaculate apartment had been transformed into what looked like a frat house after a wild party. 7 or 8 strangers were sprawled across my living room, some on my expensive leather sofa, others on makeshift bedding on the floor. The state of my apartment was beyond shocking. My pristine cream carpet was stained with what looked like wine and food. Empty beer bottles and pizza boxes littered every surface. Someone had spilled something sticky on my glass coffee table, and no one had bothered to clean it up. The air was thick with cigarette smoke, despite my building's strict no-smoking policy. My allergies immediately flared up. My designer sofa, which had cost me nearly $4,000, was now home to a large, unidentifiable stain. Crumbs were ground into the cushions, and someone had clearly been sleeping on it as pillows and a rumpled blanket were haphazardly thrown across it. My kitchen was even worse. Dirty dishes were piled high in the sink. Food had been left out to spoil, and my refrigerator had been emptied of all the groceries I had stocked before leaving. Most disturbingly, I could see that someone had been using my entertainment system. My gaming console was on with unfamiliar user profiles added. Several of my collector's edition games were out of their cases, some scratched beyond repair. My surround sound speakers had been turned up to maximum volume, likely annoying all my neighbors. When I walked toward my bedroom, I discovered 2 people I did not recognize sound asleep in my bed using my sheets and pillows. They had clearly made themselves completely at home with their clothes strewn across my bedroom floor and their toiletries spread across my bathroom counter. As I stood there in disbelief, a middle-aged man with a beer belly and thinning hair approached me with his hand extended, as if we were old friends meeting at a barbecue. He introduced himself as Richard, Amanda's father. Behind him, a woman who looked to be in her 50s, with Amanda's same blue eyes, smiled warmly, completely oblivious to my shock. 2 other adults, who turned out to be Amanda's older brother James and her sister Kathy, barely looked up from the football game they were watching on my television. 3 children, apparently. Kathy's kids were running around my apartment using my throw pillows as projectiles in some kind of makeshift battle. One of them had even drawn on my wall with what looked like permanent marker. Nobody seemed concerned about the damage or the intrusion. In fact, they all acted as if I was the one who had unexpectedly dropped in on them. Richard clapped me on the shoulder and loudly announced, "So this is the famous Ford we have heard so much about. The man of the house has returned early." He laughed heartily, as if we were sharing an inside joke. His breath reeked of alcohol, and I noticed he was wearing what appeared to be one of my casual button-up shirts. I was too stunned to respond immediately. Amanda emerged from my bathroom, her face registering surprise, and then quickly shifting to an uncomfortable smile. She approached me with hesitation, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek, as if everything was normal. "Ford, you are back early. I was going to tell you, but wanted it to be a surprise. My family came to visit from Minnesota," she explained, gesturing to the people who had taken over my living space. When I asked how long they had been here, Amanda admitted they had arrived 5 days ago. They had originally planned to stay at a hotel, she claimed, but had encountered booking issues. Since my apartment was so spacious and I was away, she thought it would be fine for them to stay. She presented this decision as perfectly reasonable, as if lending out someone else's home without permission was a normal thing to do. I tried to remain calm as I pointed out that she should have asked me first. Amanda's expression changed from apologetic to defensive. "I thought you would be happy to help my family out," she said, her tone suggesting I was being unreasonable. "It is only for a few days, and they had nowhere else to go. Hotel prices in the city are crazy right now." I looked around at the devastation of my apartment and the strangers who had been living in my personal space for nearly a week. Taking a deep breath, I politely but firmly explained that while I understood their situation, I was uncomfortable with people I had never met, staying in my home without my knowledge or permission. I suggested they might want to look into hotel options now that I had returned. Instead of understanding, this request was met with cold stares and muttered comments. James, Amanda's brother, a burly man with a sleeve of tattoos, stood up and approached me. "We were told we could stay through the weekend," he said, his tone carrying a subtle threat. "Amanda said you were a generous guy. Guess that was just talk." Amanda pulled me aside, her eyes filling with tears. She accused me of embarrassing her in front of her family and being selfish. "They came all this way to meet you," she whispered angrily. My dad lost his job last month, and they saved up for this trip. How can you be so cold? I noticed James was wearing what appeared to be one of my watches, a vintage Omega I had purchased the previous year. When I pointed this out, he claimed Amanda had said I would not mind if he borrowed it. I later discovered several items of my clothing had been distributed among the male family members, all apparently with Amanda's blessing. The situation deteriorated further when Amanda's mother announced they had extended their stay for 3 more days, as the flights home were much cheaper on Tuesday. She said this not as a request, but as a statement of fact, clearly expecting no objection from me. She even mentioned they were thinking of visiting the Willis Tower tomorrow, and asked if I would like to join them, as if we were all on a family vacation together. I excused myself to check on the rest of my apartment, only to discover more violations of my privacy and property. In my kitchen, an expensive bottle of 30-year-old scotch, a birthday gift from my father, had been opened and nearly emptied. My home office door was unlocked despite my explicit instructions to Amanda that this room was off limits due to sensitive work documents and equipment. Inside my office, things had clearly been moved around. My desk drawers were slightly open, papers rearranged. My heart sank when I turned on my computer and found unfamiliar browsing history and downloads. Someone had been using my personal computer extensively, potentially accessing private work files and personal financial information. At this point, my patience had completely evaporated. I returned to the living room and firmly announced that everyone needed to gather their belongings and leave immediately. I was not willing to negotiate or discuss the matter further. If necessary, I told them I would call building security or the police to report unauthorized occupants. This ultimatum triggered an explosive reaction. James stood up aggressively, calling me several vulgar names. Amanda's father started lecturing me about hospitality and family values. Her mother began crying dramatically, claiming I was putting them out on the street. The children, picking up on the tension, started wailing. Throughout all of this, Amanda stood with her family, not with me. She accused me of being heartless, unreasonable, and cruel. "I cannot believe you would do this to people who mean everything to me," she shouted. "This is not the man I thought you were." When they finally began collecting their things, the mood was venomous. Amanda announced she would be leaving with her family, unable to stay with someone who would treat her loved ones so poorly. As they filed out, each family member made sure to make a parting comment about my character, calling me selfish, cold, and unworthy of their daughter and sister. The betrayal did not end with their departure. The next morning, I discovered Amanda had posted a lengthy message on social media describing how her controlling boyfriend had thrown her family out into the night, forcing them to spend money they did not have on last-minute hotel rooms. She painted me as a villain who valued material possessions over people and lacked compassion for a family going through financial hardship. Friends we shared began texting me, asking what was wrong with me and why I would behave so cruelly. Some mutual acquaintances unfriended me online, without even hearing my side of the story. I received a threatening message from James, suggesting he would deal with me when things calmed down. I felt not only betrayed by Amanda, but suddenly isolated and publicly villainized. But the worst was yet to come. As I began the depressing task of cleaning my apartment and assessing the damage, I noticed something that turned my stomach to ice. The small safe I kept hidden in my bedroom closet, concealed behind hanging clothes, showed signs of tampering. The electronic lock had been forcibly damaged, and when I managed to get it open, I found it completely empty. Missing was my entire vintage watch collection, representing years of careful collecting and a significant financial investment. Also gone were stock certificates. My grandfather had given me emergency cash I kept on hand, and several pieces of family jewelry I had inherited. The total value was well over $50,000. When I checked my online banking, I discovered multiple attempts to access my accounts from my home computer during the days I was away. I was devastated, but refused to let Amanda and her family get away with what they had done. My first step was to review the security footage from the hidden cameras I had installed 6 months earlier, after a series of break-ins in our building. I had never mentioned these cameras to Amanda, as they were discreetly placed and I rarely checked the footage. What I saw confirmed my worst suspicions. The cameras captured James methodically searching through my apartment on their second day there, opening drawers and checking behind furniture. There was clear footage of him discovering the safe in my closet and calling the others to look at it. Most disturbing was a clip of Amanda pointing out where I kept important documents and standing guard while James worked on breaking into the safe. Other footage showed the family discussing the value of my watches, with Amanda's father commenting on how much they could get for them. They even joked about my reaction when I discovered the items missing with Amanda, reassuring them I probably would not notice for weeks since I had so many possessions. I was not just angry, I felt completely betrayed. The woman I had loved and trusted for 2 years had orchestrated a theft from my home. She had knowingly let her family violate my privacy and steal my possessions. The calculated nature of their actions suggested this was not an impulsive decision but a planned operation. Digging deeper, I checked my credit report and discovered several unauthorized credit inquiries, suggesting someone had attempted to open new accounts in my name. I contacted my bank to secure my accounts and place fraud alerts on my credit. The bank's security team confirmed that someone had attempted to access my online banking multiple times, trying different password combinations. Determined to understand the full scope of what I was dealing with, I began researching Amanda's family. Through social media and public records, I discovered James had a history of fraud charges in Minnesota. He had been arrested twice for similar schemes targeting people through personal relationships. I even found a news article about a scam he ran through a dating app where he would convince women to let him stay in their homes, then rob them. I reached out to Amanda's previous boyfriend through a mutual acquaintance, hoping to gain insight into whether this was a pattern. What he told me was chilling. 2 years ago, Amanda had introduced James to her then-boyfriend, under similar circumstances. The family had stayed at his house while he was away on a business trip, and he returned to find valuable electronics and jewelry missing. When he confronted Amanda, she denied any knowledge and broke up with him for not trusting her. Armed with this information, I devised a plan. I texted Amanda, suggesting we meet to talk things through. I expressed regret for how things had ended and hinted that I missed her. Though it was difficult to maintain this facade, I needed her to believe I was vulnerable and potentially willing to reconcile. Amanda agreed to meet at my apartment the following evening. Before she arrived, I thoroughly cleaned the place and set up additional recording devices. I also alerted the police about the situation and arranged for an officer to be nearby ready to intervene when needed. When Amanda arrived, she seemed hesitant, but warmed up when I apologized for my overreaction. I offered her a drink and casually asked how her family was doing. She claimed they were still upset about the misunderstanding, but would be willing to give me another chance if I made amends, perhaps by helping them financially with hotel costs. Slowly, methodically, I began to present the evidence. First, I mentioned a missing watch, gauging her reaction. She feigned ignorance. Then I showed her a still image from the security camera of James opening my safe. Her expression shifted from confidence to panic. "Those cameras are not legal," she stammered immediately, defensive rather than denying the theft. I continued revealing evidence piece by piece, the footage of her directing James to my documents, the recording of their conversation about selling my watches, the credit inquiries. With each revelation, Amanda's denials became weaker, until finally she broke down. "You do not understand," she sobbed. "My family is in serious financial trouble. James owes money to dangerous people. We never meant to hurt you. We just needed help, and you have so much." When I pressed further, Amanda finally admitted the full truth. Her family had a history of these schemes. They would identify potential targets, people with valuable possessions who lived alone. Amanda would develop relationships with these individuals, gain their trust, and eventually get access to their homes. What shocked me most was learning that our entire relationship had been, at least in part, a construct designed to set up this theft. Not at the beginning, Amanda insisted, tears streaming down her face. "I really did fall for you, Ford. But when my family needed help, I could not say no to them. Family comes first." As she made this confession, I received a text from the police officer waiting outside. I had been recording our conversation and streaming it to him. He had heard enough and was ready to intervene. "Amanda," I said calmly, "the police are outside. They have been listening to everything you just said. Your brother was arrested an hour ago, with my watches in his possession." The look of betrayal on her face was ironic, considering what she had done to me. She accused me of tricking her, of lying about my feelings to extract a confession. In her mind, somehow, I was still the villain in this story. When the police entered, Amanda was arrested for conspiracy to commit theft. The evidence against her and her family was overwhelming. The security footage recorded confessions, and recovery of some stolen items from James's hotel room created an airtight case. Over the next few weeks, the legal process unfolded. James, with his prior record, faced serious charges and eventually accepted a plea deal that included jail time. Amanda, her father, and even her mother faced charges related to the theft and fraud attempts. Amanda received a suspended sentence and was ordered to pay restitution. Most of my watches were recovered from a pawn shop where James had sold them. The cash and stock certificates were gone, but the financial loss, while significant, was less painful than the emotional betrayal. My sense of security and ability to trust had been fundamentally damaged. The social fallout was complicated. Once the truth came out, most friends who had initially sided with Amanda reached out to apologize. Some admitted she had told them wild stories about me being abusive or controlling narratives designed to isolate me and make her accusations more believable. The support I eventually received helped, but I still felt foolish for having been so thoroughly deceived. The months following Amanda's betrayal were some of the hardest of my life. I struggled with insomnia, constantly replaying moments from our relationship and wondering how I could have missed the signs. The apartment that had once been my sanctuary now felt violated. Every time I entered, I remembered the scene of strangers making themselves at home among my possessions. I could not bear to stay there and found a new apartment in a different building with enhanced security features. I installed a comprehensive camera system, upgraded locks, and even added motion sensors. My new home was secure, but it reflected my newfound paranoia. Friends commented on how fortress-like it seemed, but I could not help it. The sense of violation lingered. Professional therapy became an essential part of my healing process. My therapist helped me understand that what happened was not my fault. Manipulators like Amanda and her family were skilled at identifying trusting people and exploiting their goodness. She helped me see that my capacity to trust was actually a strength, not a weakness, even though it had been used against me. I joined a support group for victims of relationship fraud, where I met others with similar experiences. Hearing their stories helped me feel less alone and less foolish. One man in the group had lost his entire retirement savings to a romantic partner. Another had been manipulated into signing over property. My story, while painful, was just one among many. Work became my refuge. I threw myself into new projects, and my boss recognized my dedication with the promotion we had discussed before the Seattle trip. The increased responsibilities gave me purpose and direction when other parts of my life felt chaotic. My colleagues became an important support system, inviting me to dinners and events to ensure I did not isolate myself. Gradually, I began to rebuild my watch collection. It was different now, focused less on monetary value and more on pieces that brought me joy. Each new watch represented a small victory over the trauma, a way of reclaiming something that had been taken from me. I researched each piece thoroughly, learning about its history and craftsmanship, finding pleasure in the process as much as the possession. 6 months after the incident, I received a letter from Amanda. She was in another state, having moved after the court proceedings. Her letter was a mixture of apology and justification. She claimed she had not known the full extent of her family's plans, that she had been manipulated by her brother's influence from childhood. She asked for forgiveness, saying she was getting help and trying to become a better person. I never responded. Her words, once so convincing, now rang hollow. I recognized the same manipulation tactics she had used during our relationship, the subtle shifting of responsibility, the positioning of herself as a victim rather than a perpetrator. The letter went into a drawer, then eventually into the trash during a cathartic cleaning session. Dating again was challenging. I found myself analyzing every word and action of potential partners, looking for inconsistencies or signs of deception. Several promising connections ended because I could not move past my suspicions. It took time to find a balance between healthy caution and paralyzing distrust. Eventually, I met Sophia through a community volunteer program. Our relationship developed slowly, built on a foundation of honesty and clear communication. I was upfront about my past experience, and she was patient with my occasional moments of irrational fear. Her consistent actions and words gradually helped restore my faith in human connection. Today, nearly 2 years after the incident, I can say I am in a better place. The legal proceedings are long concluded, with most of Amanda's family serving probation or jail time. I have moved on professionally and personally. My relationship with Sophia continues to grow stronger, built on mutual respect and genuine caring. I have learned to listen to my intuition. Those small moments of doubt I experienced during the video calls with Amanda from Seattle, they were my subconscious recognizing something was wrong. Now I pay attention to those feelings, rather than dismissing them. The experience taught me about my own strength and resilience. I was knocked down by people I trusted, but I found the courage to stand up for myself, to seek justice, and to rebuild. This has given me confidence that whatever challenges life brings, I can face them. Most importantly, I have learned that while trust always carries risk, a life without trust is not fully lived. I choose to believe in people while being mindful of protecting myself. I set healthy boundaries and pay attention to actions rather than words. I surround myself with friends and loved ones who have proven their loyalty and character. The betrayal I experienced was real and painful, but it does not define me or my future relationships. It was a chapter in my story, not the whole book. I refuse to let Amanda and her family take anything more from me, especially not my capacity for connection and trust. Life continues to unfold with new opportunities and experiences. I am wiser now, more cautious perhaps, but also more appreciative of genuine relationships and honest people. In an unexpected way, this painful experience helped me distinguish what truly matters in life and the kind of person I want to be, regardless of how others may act. Has something like this ever happened to you? Or someone you know? How did you rebuild trust after a significant betrayal? Drop a comment below and share your experience. Your story might help someone else who is going through something similar right now. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. And if you know someone who might benefit from this message about trusting your instincts, share this video with them. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, even after the darkest betrayals, healing and happiness are still possible.